Hello, welcome to Juicy Scoop. I'm talking to a hilarious comedian, she's a woman, Jessica Kirson. I find you so funny. I've been following you on Twitter for years. We have never met in person, and you are on Juicy Scoop. How are you?
I'm good. I can't believe we've never met in person. That's so weird. But I
Well,
love you. I've always loved you.
thank you.
And
Well, you're an
yeah,
East Coast girl. We
yeah.
can tell by your voice. So maybe that's why. I remember I saw a clip of you on some late night show, which I only really watch late night when I'm on the road. And then I started writing you, and I was like, I got to get you on the show. I think it was just pre-pandemic when you come out to LA again.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was reminded again that I should have you on because you wrote kind of a great tweet about my girl Bethenny, which I just was like, let's just hear what made you write the tweet. What did you write? Go ahead. Tell the
Well,
story.
you know what's funny? You reached out, and so did like Whitney texted me, and Chrissy Teigen contacted me. It's like all these people reached out to me from that Bethany tweet. I'm like, oh my God, I guess you know when you tweet and you don't even expect anything to happen. I just tweeted, but
Yeah,
she wrote something about Meghan Markle, and
right.
I don't know, when celebrities go after other celebrities, like this was even before the interview. So I was like,
It was
why?
the day, it was the Sunday, it was going to appear that night, right? We're all going
Right.
to watch it. It was appointment viewing. And she did it, she started to do like a rant of
Right.
tweets on Sunday morning being like, oh, boohoo, cry me a river. I'm in reality TV and I did this and I had to put up with this. And therefore you should too. And I feel like I know Bethany's brain as someone who's watched the show, someone who's been on her show. I was on her show once too, but I watched The Housewives throughout the whole thing. She's the only person in LA that did that LA thing where we were mid-conversation, and she was on Chelsea Lately, and I was a writer on the show, and we were in mid-conversation, and
Yeah.
Chelsea went by, and she literally just left mid-sentence. And it was like, Chelsea, when are we going to get dinner? And then Chelsea had some place to go, and Chelsea was being polite, but she never came back to finish
No,
the
I know.
conversation with
I know what
me.
you're talking about. I know. I've had it happen to me. I know. I knew before you even told me what she did. I knew that you were going to say that's what she did. I know.
So
It's
go ahead. So
first
I
of
was just going to
all.
finish. I was just going to finish it really quick.
Oh,
So when I was
sure.
seeing those tweets, I was like, when you said celebrities going after celebrities, the hypocrisy is what always kills me. The hypocrisy always kills me of why that is so gross to do. And then second of all, I was like, my take on it was like, Bethany, you're just fucking jealous. You're jealous that she's stepping in your arena of podcasts and branding, and she knows she's going to have a food line. She knows Megan's going to have a clothing line. So she's just like jealous and bitter. And it was so transparent to me, at least. Tell me what you thought.
Well, everything you just said. First of all, when a celebrity goes after another celebrity like that, it makes me sick. When a woman goes after another woman like that, it makes me even sicker. And the fact that, like, it was so petty. Even before the interview came out to attack her like that. I mean, it was like, I knew she'd regret it once she put it out. It was, and she was such a bitch to me. And she didn't even realize she was a bitch to me. I'm sure she had no clue. In fact, I know she probably was like, "Who is this woman? When did she even work for me? What the hell is she even talking about?" But I did warm up. I was the warm up comic on her talk show, so I was never
Yes.
even actually on the show, which was fine with me. I could care less. I did it. It was great money to do warm up,
Right.
and I did warm up, and I did warm up for the Mike and Juliet show, which was on Fox for years. I did it for The View. I did it for Anderson Cooper. I did it for I mean, I did it for so many shows, and people were always kind and nice. People much more famous than her, and she never once said hello to me. I mean, I'm talking. I saw her every morning for months and never even said hello, and I was there like working with her. being like, come on, guys, come on. I was the fluffer. You know what I'm talking about. I was the
Right.
fluffer.
Well, yeah, for people that don't know, if you go to a live taping, there's always a warm-up person, and oftentimes it is a very talented comedian. You're lucky if your show can have a talented comedian like you, because you really are getting a whole nother entertaining show before you actually see the taping. Other times it's someone just throwing candy at you. But yeah, so that's basically what it is. And in every show I've done, it's really fun to meet the other, because you maybe come out there earlier, so you meet the warm-up person, and the host is always, like when I do Wendy's always very sweet to whoever that person is and has conversations with them in between the breaks, and that's something that the audience actually enjoys seeing.
Of course, like it's like a relationship, and you want to get along with the warm-up person because, again, they're the ones who are like bridging that relationship between you and the audience. So she never said hello to me, and she was actually rude at times. She would be like, "Can you get them going?" Like, not, she wouldn't even not just say hello. She would be like, "Can you get them more into it? Can you get them more excited?" And at certain points, I wanted to be like, "Can you be more entertaining? Like, I can only do so much." Like, can you say something interesting? Because I, what do you want me to do here? Like, I can't, I'm dancing with them. I'm doing backflips. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? So she never said hi. And then she was so rude. At one point, I literally had it and I just walked off. I literally put my microphone down and was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I left. I quit. I walked off the set. It's the only time I ever did that.
In your whole life?
On a TV set? Yeah. Ever.
I mean, that's a lot to walk away from a steady gig.
I knew I would get another warm-up gig somewhere because I was very good at it. Like, that was something I was very good at doing. So I knew, and after that I was asked to do Colbert. I was asked to do other gigs, so I didn't care. But I just was like, I have a lot of pride that way. Like, you cannot treat me like that after everything, how hard I've worked. It's ridiculous. Like, at least just be like, hello, or, thank you for getting them going. I mean, people are so grateful when you get the audience going, people who have talk shows.
And when the day that you decided to walk off, like, had you thought about it prior? Because I just think that's so ballsy. I have a lot of respect for you because I never was I've actually never quit a job. And I really respect people that actually have the balls and the confidence to know that, yes, I can get other work and no, this is not going to define me. And this is more crushing to my spirit than, like, what made you just decide, like, today's the fucking day, and how great that must have felt? Tell someone what that is like to quit.
Well, I am very blessed with that. Like, I have always felt like in this business, I'd rather be on the street with a bucket telling jokes than have someone treat me like that, in front of people too. This would be in front of a live audience. So it was very demeaning. It made me feel horrible. I actually have a great story about The View too with, what's her name? Oh my God. Who's the woman?
Tell.
Oh God, it's a great story. With the woman who was on The Lawyer, the black woman who was married.
Sunny?
No. Oh God, I can't believe I can't remember her name. I'll think of it.
Okay, well, what year was it?
Star Jones.
Oh, Star Jones. Okay,
yeah, a great story about her too. But yeah, she, I was embarrassed, and it made me feel horrible about myself. And I was like, I'm dreading going here. I'd rather do the road more or do something than be treated like this. And I was getting really sick of it. So that day, I think she was just more rude than maybe other days. And I just said, I'm done. I remember taking the mic and not even telling people I was leaving. I still can't believe I did that. I just put it down.
And you just got your purse and left. Like, didn't tell an EP, didn't tell a PA. I
told the producer, I said, I'm sorry, but I have to leave. I can't do this anymore.
And what'd they say?
And they're like, what? Can't you just, I said, I can't. I literally couldn't stay. I'd had it. I was like...
And also, was there something at all, and maybe there's, yes or no honesty, but like, sometimes I'm a fan of reality TV and I interview a lot of these women, and I feel like when they were starting to really come up and get their own, be chosen for things and really be stars in their own right, I sometimes would see comedians and other people kind of shit on them as entertainers, and I was always sort of defending it because I was like, I don't want to be that person because I watch the show. I think they're chosen because they're sometimes assholes and they have no self-awareness, but they're still entertaining. So if they get product endorsements or something, so what? But a talk show, as a comedian, as you know, being someone that's a comedian, but also has been on the floor of talk shows from Anderson Cooper to wherever, it is such a talent. It is so hard. It's like when sometimes some of these people, like Anini Leakes, tried to be a stand-up for a minute. And you're like, okay, I think a talk show host and a stand-up, it's probably one of the hardest things that really does take years and years and years of experience to be really good at. And when you see it's being handed to someone that, not deserving of it, and then not being grateful. Like, I always feel like there's other people that get handed something, that surrounds themselves by people that can help them, that are grateful, that are asking, that are, kind of knowing that they're not really ready for it. And then there's other ones that are just the ego is so big, they act like that.
You are so right, Heather. That's exactly how I feel. I have no problem with her being a reality star. And I actually, more credit to her for being a business person and making a lot of money and having all these products and like all this stuff going on, and also how much she helps people and provides. And like, I think that's amazing. But when people don't have gratitude and when people are so egotistical and they don't appreciate what they have, and being handed you should have a talk show. Like, it's such a huge thing to get a talk show. It's like, there's so many people who deserve a talk show. So to just take that for granted and to treat someone who's a struggling artist who really has done the work in entertainment and has been treated like crap so many times, been beaten down so many times, and had bottles thrown at them and worked at, all over the world in horrible situations. I mean, like, give someone a little respect. It made me feel like I was an open micer, like I was just starting out, and I had been doing it already for 15 years or something. So it just was a horrible feeling. And I don't respect people who are not grateful. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. I don't like it.
I agree. So tell me your Star Jones story.
It's a great story. So I was doing warm up at The View, and I just started, and they used to give me something to read, just to read out. So it'd be like, please welcome Meredith Vieira, and I was reading and literally just doing it perfectly. And I remember going, please welcome Star Jones, and everyone cheered. And then the stage director's like, Jessica, please come to the stage area. So in front of the whole audience, I go to the stage area, and she's like, you need to call Star Jones Reynolds. That's her name. And she is very upset with you that you called her Star Jones. And I'm like,
because she had just married the guy that
the gay guy. So she's like, so she goes, I go, okay, well, I read off the page. Like, I read what you said to say. And she's like, well, she's very upset with you. I'm like, well, tell her I'm sorry. I literally read off the paper. Like, I don't know what you want. So I was freaked out. I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm going to lose this job. And then during a break, I'll never forget it. She has these two men walking her out, holding her hands, and she has stilettos this high. I mean, it was crazy. But then she comes up to me and she goes, hello, my name is Star Jones Reynolds, and you need to call me that. So get it right the next time, okay? And I was like, this is, when you feel like you're in like a sitcom, like I was like, is this real? Am I on acid? What is going on? Who are you? And why are two men holding you up? Why are you walking on stilts? Your husband's gay. What is happening? And I got in trouble, and it was like, she slighted me for a while because I didn't say Jones at the end of her name, but she got
How long did you do that show for?
I did that show for a couple of months. And, it was a little tense there. It was certain shows had better, as you know, working on television shows, some shows have better energy than other shows. And at the time, it was a little tense to work on that show.
And because remember, she lost all the weight. And I think she said it was Pilates or something, and it was obviously gastric. And then, as someone who does Pilates, I don't think you can drop 100 pounds doing Pilates. And then
Yeah,
And
it
then,
was jumping
then
jack.
she was kind of the first person who got a bunch of things sponsored for her wedding, but she really put it out there, which people really ripped on her for, but now everybody does. Like, why
Right.
would you now get married publicly unless you can like sell your tickets, your, photos to people, or if you're going to do it on a reality show, of course it should be paid for. Why should you spend $80,000 when the whole world gets to see it? I agree.
Yeah.
But she was kind of the first person. So, but was there some satisfaction to see her just disappear afterwards?
Yes, there's always satisfaction seeing people disappear that aren't kind and like loving and grateful and
Yeah.
human. I mean, there's so many amazing people in this business, and I find that a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, the most successful ones are really the nicest.
Yes.
I mean, I've worked with some of the biggest people, and they've been so kind to me, and then some of the ones that just have that had things handed to them. And gotten stuff, I would say, easier than other people are really ungrateful and not very kind.
Well, it
And
makes perfect sense when someone goes, so-and-so, nicest guy in the world. And you're like, well, why shouldn't he be nice? His
Right.
life is fabulous. And if there was any kind of struggle, then you even are that much more grateful to
Yeah.
be at a nice restaurant, have a good table, know that you can't decide between the two appetizers. You finally get to that place where you're like, you know what? I could, which I still can't do. I'd still have to finish both appetizers I ordered because I have
Yeah,
a
me
thing.
too.
I've like cheapness means gluttony. It's the problem. But
Yeah.
sometimes I do have to say, Heather, you can like just stop eating that and order something else. Like you finally can like afford another $12 app if you don't like it. So, but it is kind of it's like when you finally get there and then these people are at such a huge level, like it is so crazy when people are just dicks or when they, and oftentimes most reality people are the nicest about you approaching them and taking a photo because they weren't Julia Roberts being hounded for the last 35 years. Not that she wouldn't be nice, but
Yeah.
I also think like then when you hear that sometimes they aren't, you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like
I
3
know.
years ago, you were never even in a high school play and you're the lead in a Bravo series in 120 countries. Like, are you
Why
kidding
are they
me?
allowed to get away with that? It's so frustrating. I just don't think they should be allowed to get away with it. It's so not okay.
Well, that's why you're on the show today, and we're going to stop. We're going to stop them getting away with it. So you have had a long career, and what are your feelings about the last couple years of finally some people realizing the assholeness in our business, these guys that one after the other have finally been exposed for horrible behavior? Like, just tell me your point of view a little of everything from the Chris D'Elia to the, Louis C.K. to all of it.
Well, I mean, listen, there is I've said if you look at how many pigs there are in our business, it's like if you look at a lineup at a comedy club, there would be no lineup. It would just be like two women performing on the show. I mean, it's usually 10 guys and two women. It's like
Yes.
it's just kind of the norm. I've said things didn't even faze me until people started talking about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that guy smacked my ass. That guy once, touched my boob. This one said this to me. Like, I didn't even realize it wasn't okay because I'm so used to it.
Right.
And a lot of women have said the same thing, that they experience the same thing. They're so used to being around it for so many years.
We were so used to, because we're like the same age, and we're so used to just going, yeah, I know there can only be 2 girls out of 12.
Yeah.
I know that.
If that.
There couldn't be
If two.
half. There certainly never could be more. But there couldn't even be a third. Like it
No.
would, and so you were just kind of like, oh, okay. And of course the guys are going to be perceived as funnier. Of course I'm going to be introduced as a woman. Of course,
They're-
like all of that. And, and then women that, were bolder in talking about their sexuality, then guys would go, God, all she talks about is her vagina. How many times have we seen a guy use a stool to pretend like he's fucking someone?
It's, you know what? It's so, I say stuff all the time. Well, first of all, even to have two women on the lineup is a big deal sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's usually one.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's two. If it's three, it's partly a women's show. I mean,
Yes.
it's really, if it's all women, if it's three women at a club during the weekend, for people that don't know, there's usually a host, a middle, and a headliner.
Right.
That's ladies weekend or ladies night out or vag weekend. It's never just a show, right? I mean,
Right.
it's so, and usually, I mean, honestly, the women are really, really funny. Like, it's just not true. It's not. So that when people say women aren't funny, it's just ridiculous because it's not true. I mean, it's not true. And
I've told to my audience, sometimes they think they're being great and they're like, I'm coming to your show and I'm dragging my husband. And about a year and a half ago, I said on my podcast, I go, you're not really helping the cause because you're putting that out there that you had to drag him. And if he got tickets to see Chris Rock, you'd get a blowout. You'd be thrilled to go. You wouldn't ever say, you know what, honey, thanks for those Chris Rock tickets, but I don't really think male comics are funny. So I don't want to go.
True.
That would never happen. And I said, so give your husband a little more credit that if he thinks if he married you, he likes your personality. If you like me, then he's going to like the show I give. And like once I started to say that, more and more people they didn't say I dragged my husband. The husbands came and were happy. It's like part of it, changing it is like give the men some credit that they're actually more intelligent, that they don't have to see the exact same human on stage to enjoy the story that is being told to them. It doesn't have to be their story,
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. I love that. It's really true. And yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'll be on stage and say something dirty or curse or something, and there's always a guy who goes, Jesus. And I'm like, it happens all the time. And I'm like, did I just say something that was offensive? I'm like, let me see your porn search. Like, you're a pig. You're an animal. You are probably a vile, disgusting human being. So because I said vagina or I said fucking or something like that, I'm like, I'm allowed to say whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a double standard. It really is. And we get blamed if we talk about sex or we act stuff out or whatever. And then if we don't, we get judged on others. It's just, we're always judged no matter what.
I will say I have said when people ask for like advice or whatever, other female comics, I always say, obviously, tell about your life and be authentic because only you have your childhood, only you have your life, only you have the parents that came from this part of the world or whatever. But I do say if you can start out, and I just did, shows in San Antonio and I'm dirty, I'm edgy, I'm dirty. I like it. I'm grateful that I can really be that way. But I do say for people starting out, if you can work on bits that are clean, that is, as you're starting out, that is going to take you further. So I do say that just as a tip to guys, girls, whoever, a more relatable, cleaner bit will take you and it's more difficult. So try it, and then when you get to a level, you can kind of be like, fuck it, because everybody that came to see the show is coming to see you. So you don't really have to, try to, I don't know, come up with more material that's more generic or cleaner or whatever, which is, good. Which
You're
I appreciate.
right. You are right. It is much better to be cleaner when you're starting out, and a lot of them aren't. I mean, you'll see like a poor female comic who's like, "Oh my God, I was getting fucked up the ass the other," and then like these pictures on Instagram, it's hilarious. I'm like, what does your butthole have to do with you being in New Orleans next weekend? Like, what is?
Oh, you mean the female comics that also have an Instagram account it's up there with Cardi B? I'm like, are you a stand-up or are you a porn star? And I'm like, I get if that's gonna get you more likes and stuff, but they're not the kind of likes that are gonna get you, on TV or get you people going to see your show. And I think sometimes it's so hard because if you are attractive and you're being raised in this Instagram world, you're thirsty, you like the compliments, so you don't want to stop doing that. And maybe you're single too, so you like the guys DMing you and all that. But God, if you like if you could refrain from that and just really just put out funny content, sure, look cute, pose a cute outfit, post where the outfit's from, but we don't need to see, yeah, your full ass crotch shot. And then
No,
I'm
I'm
not,
telling you, because what happens is people go like they're like, "Oh, that's a tight pussy," and then they go to see you and you bomb because you're brand new, and then again they're like, "Women aren't funny." I mean, it's a whole
but their pussy still is tight.
right. So I guess that's the,
Their 5 minutes weren't tight, but their pussy was. And it's kind of a weird thing for us too, because it's like I was raised with a mom that would say, get your education, no one can take that away from you. Make your own money, never depend on a man. And now there's this whole nother generation that's all about doing OnlyFans, getting guys to buy you purses, doing, empowering their feminine ways by like, hey, I'm fucking 10 guys a month. 2 of them might as well pay my rent on sugarbaby.com or whatever. And I kind of go, well, I shouldn't judge that. I was just raised a different way, Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I don't know. It's just a very interesting thing because it's like I love that the younger women have like taught us to take to kind of made us aware, like we were just saying, we put up with a lot of shit. Now it's like kind of nice that we're not. But at the same time, I'm like, what are they? The mom in me is like, come on, girl.
everything's confusing now.
Yeah,
it's all confusing. I mean, I don't know what is going to happen in this world. It's like people are getting more sensitive. They're getting less sensitive and more like say anything. Everything is so all over the place. It just will be. Be curious to see what happens 5 years from now because it's nuts.
Yes, and so tell me about the documentary that you did that's coming out in a little bit.
Well, there's a documentary called Hysterical coming out on FX and Hulu, and it's about female comedians. It's all about our plight and what we've gone through. And Kathy Griffin's in it talking about the Trump thing, the woman that was dealt with the Harvey Weinstein thing. The girl that performed in front of him when he was in the room. That was unbelievable.
Oh my God, I loved that story.
Isn't that unbelievable? And there's just like all these stories about kind of, everything we were just talking about how it's just harder for us to get stage time and the beliefs that women aren't funny and how we got started and stuff. And I love it. It's good. It's deep. And I think people are going to really love it. I think women and men will love it. And I actually started just working on a new documentary, which is incredible, about women. You're going to love this, about female comics around the world. This is unreal. I've been interviewing female comedians from all over the world. Do
you have one from the San Fernando Valley in LA?
No, you're in.
Okay. Because that was another thing in that, because I was born and raised in LA, I got some prejudice about it because I could actually fill the room at the Improv because I was from here. So as a newer person, I had male comics saying she's not funny. She filled the room with her USC friends.
Can't win.
And her parents and her brothers and sisters. And, like what and I was like, well, aren't you happy that I actually filled the room, asshole? Like they were mad that I was getting laughs early on. And so I had to like say that, and then they'd say, you can't start stand up in LA. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Move to Florida? Like,
move to Nebraska.
Because I grew up here. Yeah.
That's such an interesting thing. I used to have a lot of friends come too, and people would say, you're just getting a lot of laughs because you know people in the crowd. Everyone's so damaged. They really are.
And you're like, oh, maybe I'm not funny then. Like, it was just kind of like, what? Yeah,
I know. Everyone's always doubting. It's really crazy. People are so nuts. They really are. I'm here to tell you you're hilarious.
Oh, well, thank you. I that's why I booked you, because I said, please just let it. No, but I do appreciate it. And I also will say this to you too. There's times when I would do, like meet and greets or whatever. And after a show, and the straight guy would come up with whomever he was with, his girlfriend or whatever. And he'd be like, wow, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who you were, no offense, but you were really funny. And it would make me feel so good. And then I'd be like, Heather, why are you more happy about that compliment? Like, I'm the problem too, because I want to win over the straight man sitting there, especially if they were a little older, with their hands crossed, more than these girls that are like so happy. I'm happy for all of them, but I'm like, why why does that make me feel like somehow I did even a better job that night?
I think that's true for most female comics. I
Yeah.
don't know. Is that a dad thing? I don't know.
Maybe,
It
like
might
me,
be.
because I don't think, because we've been told women aren't funny, and the person that
Yeah.
wrote those articles and said those things are kind of that prototype, which is then where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm raising two men, teenage boys, and like, so, and they're so not like that, because of course they were. But I will say, my son did write an entire poem about how Joe Coy is his favorite comedian. He was like in the sixth grade, and he and Joe Coy's sons went to school together. We're friends, and I was like, I'm so happy to show this to Joe Coy because he's gonna love it, and he's so sweet to my son. But I was like, but at the same time, I'm like, but you're a guy, and if you relate more to Joe Coy's comedy than me, that's okay too. It's subjective, and you should like who you like, and that's why there's so many choices out there.
If you had a daughter, though, like if my daughter,
Yeah.
I have to be honest with you. I have a
Yes.
14-year-old. If Zoe wrote that you were her favorite comic and it wasn't me, I would not be okay with it. If she wrote that Joe Coy was her favorite, I'd be like, all right.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
funny. Yeah. It's I agree. It is what it is. No, like something, just like anybody, your kid is never going to be impressed with you from, whether you're, a super action star, you hear them all say that too. Oh, I can't believe you're in this trilogy of superheroes. What does your kid think? It's the same thing when you're a comic. I think they're impressed, but they're just like, yeah, well, that's what my mom does or whatever. I will say that one time my son was listening to my podcast on drive back, and he said, Mom, yours was so much funnier than the other one we listened to with these guys all talking.
Oh.
And I thought, well, thank you. And again, I was like, why am I more impressed that a male species is saying I'm funnier than men? But even though I made this child and it came out of me, I was like, that meant more to me than and I do have a stepdaughter. Had my stepdaughter said that, I still would have been like, oh, thanks. Kind of almost expecting, of course you're going to like me better than those guys. But it's like for a guy to say that he liked a female comic more than a male comic, it is
That's
like this
even
little
more
extra
so,
boost.
Like a teenage boy is even a bonus.
Yeah.
That's even more than a man. That's like a
Yes.
big compliment if a teenage boy likes a female comic.
Right.
Whether
And
it's fun or not, that's a big compliment. Yeah.
but also I think just this generation is just being exposed
Yeah.
just so many more different kinds of comedy, and they don't see it like the older people did. They're just like,
don't.
that person's funny, whether they're
Yes.
gay, straight, black, white. That's just that person's funny. That's it.
Yeah.
End of story. And I think that's what's really cool about the future
I know.
of everything.
That's why it's like, what is going to happen? Because everyone is so different now.
Yeah.
Every generation, it's so different. I mean, my daughter is like, oh my God, just the things she says, and like her wall with the Black Lives Matter. It's like, there's just with the labels and it's so interesting how different the themes are now.
Is there anything like in your, our comedy has changed so much. I often talked about when I was on Chelsea Lately, which was only 7 years ago. There's so many things that we did on that show that would absolutely not be okay today. And people just watched it and they went to bed and they didn't post about it. They didn't screen grab it. They didn't, have a news conference about it the next day. They just waited till the next show and that was it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, wow, do I need to go through the files and just put it out there and go, hey, by the way, in 2008, I was part of a sketch that if I get a little more popular might be found. And I just want you to know,
you probably did 100 things like that. I mean, think about it. There are so many things I probably said and did that I could be canceled for. It's why I keep doing them. I mean, I'm not, it's like, there's already so much out there. I'm sure that someone could say this was offensive, that I'm like, listen, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I mean, as long as
I think the thing to do is like the preempting of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Admitting to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody thought, the writer, the producer, the editor, the person who put it on the show,
Right.
Nobody thought that this was offensive. Thank you for pointing out. I would never do it today, but no one had pointed it out in 2008. Mm-hmm. So, good for you. but like,
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
So it is kind of crazy. I know you have to go. So tell everybody where they can follow you. I know you also have a podcast called Disgusting Hawk.
Yeah.
What a name.
I have two podcasts. I have one called Relatively Sane, which I'm dying for you to do.
Oh,
I want
sure.
to
Anytime.
contact you about that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like my sit down kind of more of a serious kind of interview.
Okay.
And then I have Disgusting Hawk, which is wild. I do characters and interview comedians, and it's really, I love it. It's crazy. And it's like a Saturday Night Live kind of thing. And I haven't, I'm on Instagram all the time, Jessie Kirson, and I have a website, jessicakirson.com, which has upcoming dates because I'm starting to do the road, and which is I'm very happy about.
Yeah.
And
And had
that's it.
you not really done stand up the whole year, or did you do virtual shows? Did you
I
do
did
parking lot
virtual.
shows?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did Zoom, which is not easy, as you know. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I'm glad that I've done it because at least I personally, if I hadn't done anything, I would be freaking out right now, like really freaking out because I have stage fright. I get very nervous.
I do. I still get nervous too.
Me
And
too.
but I have to say, I did one show in October in Phoenix, and then I did one in Houston a couple weeks ago, and then I did San Antonio, and now it's like,
Yeah.
and the first time I was so nervous, but it's actually more fun because, at least for me, it's almost like less pressure on myself than I've ever put on myself in the last
Yeah.
20 years of doing stand up. And it's kind of freeing, and it's even more improvisational for me. So
Yeah.
for me, it's more fun. And I think I had someone write, to pat myself, but had come see me in San Antonio the last 3 years, and she was like, "This was my favorite set." And I was
Oh,
like,
that's
when the
awesome.
other set was like polished for a stand-up special, but
Yeah.
this was like, so it's kind of a
I
fun,
love
different, like
that.
the break might have been good for all of us in a way.
I think it is. I mean, I'm nervous because I don't have polished material, but you're right.
Right.
I am improving more and just being
Yes.
more free. So that's great. And I do feel less pressure for sure.
Yes. Which is
Yeah.
good. We shouldn't put so
Yeah.
much pressure on ourselves.
I
Thank you
know.
so much for coming on. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Everybody follow her, check out all the stuff. The doc is going to be available in April on FX and Hulu. I'm sure I'll be talking about it again. And thank you.
Thank you, Heather. You're awesome. Thank you.